Here are 5 budget changes that will directly impact your daily life. Elimination of GST on first-time home purchases up to $1 million. Automatic federal benefits reaching up to 5.5 million low-income Canadians by the 2028 tax year. Increased competition in telecom and banking sectors. $25 billion committed to federal housing initiatives over 5 years. And AI infrastructure investments creating new job opportunities. Each of these represents a shift from short-term fixes to long-term economic restructuring. The government is betting that strategic investments now will generate higher GDP and per capita living standards later. For investors, understanding the timeline of these changes is crucial. But there's a bigger story here about how Canada plans to reduce its economic risks. Hi, I am Kane. I've been in the housing industry for about 20 years. I own properties throughout Ontario. You can watch my biography video to learn about my story. Also, be sure to read the reference in the description below to see where I've pulled this information from. If there are any mistakes, please let me know. The federal report is nearly 500 pages. This is a really quick summary of our budget in about 14 minutes. Without further ado, let's get started. The trade diversification strategy targets a fundamental shift in how Canada does business globally. Currently, 70% of Canadian exports go south of the border. This concentration creates economic vulnerability when trade tensions arise or U.S. demand shifts. The government recognized this risk after recent trade disputes and supply chain disruptions. When one customer represents 7/10 of your business, any change in that relationship affects your entire operation. Canadian exporters face this reality during NAFTA renegotiations and various trade policy changes. The new strategy establishes a strategic exports office at Global Affairs Canada to curate international business opportunities and build proactive roadmaps for Canadian companies. This office will provide on-ground support for Canadian companies entering new markets, covering market research, regulatory guidance, and partnership facilitation in target regions. The government set a clear goal: double non-U.S. exports over the next decade, generating $300 billion more in trade. This ambitious target requires focused investment in specific regions and sectors where Canada can compete effectively. The Indo-Pacific strategy specifically targets technology and clean energy exports to Asian markets. Canada will invest over $1.7 billion over 5 years to build trade relationships with Japan, South Korea, India, and Southeast Asian nations. These regions show growing demand for Canadian natural resources, agricultural products, and technology services. European market development focuses on critical minerals and renewable energy components. The Canada-EU Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement provides the framework, but new funding will help Canadian miners and manufacturers establish direct relationships with European buyers. Export Development Canada plans to increase total business facilitated by $25 billion by 2030. Supported by a $2 billion concessional trade finance envelope. This includes loan guarantees, insurance coverage, and direct lending for businesses establishing operations in new markets. Small and medium enterprises get priority access to these financial tools. Agricultural exports get enhanced support through the Agri-Marketing Program to enhance diversification and promotion of Canadian products into new markets. The government allocated over $639 million over 5 years starting in 2025-26 for agriculture, fish, and seafood sectors. The forestry and softwood lumber sector receives up to $700 million over 2 years in loan guarantees and $500 million over 3 years to renew and expand existing programs focused on market and product diversification. Clean technology exports represent a major opportunity under the diversification plan. Canadian companies developing carbon capture, renewable energy systems, and energy storage solutions receive marketing support and financing to enter global markets. The Strategic Response Fund provides $5 billion over 6 years to help firms in all sectors impacted by tariffs adapt, diversify, and grow. This includes support for retooling and securing new markets across manufacturing, technology, and service sectors. Industries that are export-focused, such as tech, clean energy, and manufacturing, are expected to see increased job opportunities as Canada expands globally. Technology companies need sales representatives and custom support staff for international markets. Manufacturers require additional production workers and logistics coordinators. This diversification creates job market stability when Canadian companies sell to multiple countries instead of relying primarily on U.S. demand. Economic downturns or policy changes in one market have less impact on employment when exports are spread across many regions. The strategy represents more than trade policy. It signals a fundamental restructuring of Canada's economic relationships and domestic priorities. While companies adapt to new international markets, the government is making equally significant investments closer to home. The Build Canada Homes Agency received substantial funding as part of the government's broader goal to double housing construction over the next decade. This new agency will coordinate factory-built housing, modular construction, and mass timber projects across the country. The goal is cutting construction timelines by up to 50% and reducing building costs by as much as 20% compared to traditional methods. Factory-built housing means constructing wall panels, floor systems, and roof sections in controlled manufacturing facilities. These components get shipped to building sites for assembly. The process eliminates weather delays and reduces labor requirements on site. Assembly takes weeks instead of months for traditional construction. Modular construction takes this concept further by building entire room sections or housing units in factories. Complete bathroom pods, kitchen units, and bedroom modules get manufactured with all plumbing, electrical, and finishing work completed. Cranes position these modules on foundations, and workers connect utilities between sections. Mass timber construction uses engineered wood products like cross-laminated timber and glue-laminated beams for multi-story buildings. These materials replace concrete and steel in mid-rise residential construction. Mass timber buildings go up faster than concrete structures and cost less than steel frame construction. The GST elimination on new homes up to $1 million saves first-time buyers significant money. On a $600,000 new home, you save $30,000 in GST. On a $900,000 new home, the savings reach $45,000. For new homes between $1 million and $1.5 million, partial GST relief still provides substantial savings for first-time buyers. You need to meet specific criteria to qualify for GST relief. You must be purchasing your first home, or not have owned a home in the past 4 years. The home must be your primary residence, not an investment property. Construction must be completed after the budget implementation date. Build Canada Homes starts with 6 development sites that will produce 4,000 factory-built homes. These initial projects test the construction methods and supply chain logistics. The agency selected sites in different regions to understand how factory-built housing performs in various climates and local markets. Public land utilization represents a major component of the housing strategy. Federal, provincial, and municipal governments will contribute surplus land for housing development. This eliminates land acquisition costs, which typically represent 20 to 30% of development expenses. Approval streamlining targets the permitting bottlenecks that delay construction projects. Municipal approval processes currently take 6 to 18 months for residential developments. The new system aims to reduce approval timelines to 3 to 6 months through standardized processes and digital submissions. The Canada Mortgage Bond annual issuance increases from $60 billion to $80 billion starting in 2026. This expansion provides more mortgage funding for lenders, enabling them to finance additional multi-unit rental construction. Developers get access to lower-cost construction financing through this program. Construction industry capacity becomes crucial for meeting housing targets. The sector needs additional skilled trades workers, equipment, and material supply chains. Factory-built housing requires fewer on-site workers, but more manufacturing capacity. The transition creates opportunities for workers to move from outdoor construction to indoor manufacturing jobs. Regional housing markets will see different impacts from these programs. Urban centers with high land costs benefit most from public land contribution and approval streamlining. Smaller communities gain access to factory-built housing options that local contractors cannot efficiently provide. The construction timeline targets aim for measurable improvements. Traditional single-family homes take 4 to 6 months to build. Factory-built homes should complete in 2 to 3 months. Multi-unit projects currently take 12 to 18 months, but should finish in 8 to 12 months with new methods. These housing investments represent just one part of a larger financial puzzle. The scale of spending on construction, infrastructure, and benefits raises an obvious question about government finances. The government plans to cut $13 billion in annual spending by 2028-29, while funding major new programs. The method centers on separating capital investments from operating expenses through the new capital budgeting framework. This framework classifies government spending into 2 categories. Day-to-day operating expenses include salaries, office supplies, consultants, and administrative costs. Capital investments cover infrastructure, housing programs, technology systems, and transfers to provinces for construction projects. Annual capital investment will nearly double from $32.2 billion in 2024 to 2025 to $59.6 billion in 2029 to 2030. The framework treats these categories differently in budget planning. Operating expenses must balance with government revenues by 2028-29. This requirement forces departments to cut administrative spending and eliminate inefficient programs. The money saved from reduced bureaucracy gets redirected toward capital investments that generate economic returns. The Comprehensive Expenditure Review identifies $60 billion in savings over 5 years by targeting wasteful spending. Government departments must justify every program and expense category. Programs that duplicate services or fail to deliver measurable results get eliminated. Administrative overhead gets reduced through automation and process improvements. Federal departments currently spend billions on consultants, temporary workers, and external contractors. The review process requires departments to bring these functions in-house or eliminate them entirely. Travel expenses, office space costs, and equipment purchases face strict limits. These cuts free up money for infrastructure and housing investments. Crown corporations play a key role in multiplying government investment dollars. The Canada Infrastructure Bank received additional funding to leverage private sector investment. For every dollar the government invests through this bank, private companies contribute multiple dollars for the same projects. Private sector leverage works through public-private partnerships and co-investment arrangements. The government provides initial funding or loan guarantees for infrastructure projects. Private companies contribute additional capital and handle construction and operation responsibilities. This arrangement allows the government to build more infrastructure with less direct spending. The strategy aims to catalyze $500 billion in private sector investment over the next 5 years. The infrastructure investments target projects that boost economic productivity. Upgraded ports, railways, and highways reduce transportation costs for businesses. Improved internet networks enable more efficient digital commerce. Better water and sewer systems support housing and commercial development in growing communities. Housing investments operate on the same leverage principle. Government funding for rental housing construction attracts private developer investment. Mortgage loan insurance programs enable private lenders to finance more housing projects. Public land contributions reduce development costs, encouraging private sector participation. Tax incentives for clean energy investments represent another form of capital spending. The government forgoes tax revenue to encourage private companies to build renewable energy projects, battery manufacturing facilities, and electric vehicle charging networks. These investments create jobs and reduce long-term energy costs. The growth-oriented budget approach expects infrastructure investments to pay for themselves through increased tax revenues. Better transportation networks and digital infrastructure help businesses operate more efficiently. Higher business productivity leads to increased profits and wages, which generate more tax revenue for the government. The deficit to GDP ratio provides the second fiscal anchor for this strategy. The government maintains declining deficits relative to economic output while increasing capital investments. This approach allows continued investment spending without creating unsustainable debt burdens. The International Monetary Fund supports this spending shift approach. Kristalina Georgieva noted that Canadian authorities have been decisive in taking action regarding changing trade relationships. The IMF recognizes that infrastructure spending can deliver significant long-term economic gains when combined with administrative efficiency improvements. The approach works only if infrastructure investments actually boost productivity and GDP as projected. Failed projects or cost overruns undermine the strategy's financial assumptions and debt sustainability. The real test comes in measuring whether these investments deliver the promised economic transformation. Canada's response to global trade uncertainty and the need for economic resilience drives this fundamental shift from short-term fixes to long-term economic restructuring. The government is betting that infrastructure investments will reshape how Canadians work, live, and invest over the next decade. The success depends on whether these investments actually deliver the promised productivity gains and private sector participation. The government aims to catalyze $500 billion in private sector investment over 5 years, which could increase real GDP by 3.5% by 2030. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to watch how you can build wealth in 10 steps.